Elara believed in colors the way other people believe in God. For her, emotions weren't just feelings. They were hues that stained the air around a person. Joy was a brilliant, sun-drenched gold. Anxiety was a flickering, acidic green. And when she first saw Leo Thorne, standing by the riverbank with a sketchbook in his hands, he was surrounded by the most beautiful melancholic blue she had ever seen, the color of a twilight sky just before the stars emerge. He wasn't looking at the river. He was looking at the old iron bridge, his brow furrowed in concentration. Elara, who ran the small, struggling art supply shop, the Chromatic Cup, found herself drawn to him. "Having trouble with the perspective?" she asked, her voice softer than she intended. He jumped, then turned, and the blue around him shimmered. His eyes were the same shade. "The left arch," he admitted, showing her the sketch. It was technically perfect but felt stiff. "It doesn't look like it's holding up the sky. It looks like it's just there." "It's because you're only drawing what you see," Elara said, a familiar courage rising in her. "Not what it feels like. That bridge has been here for a century. Feels heavy, doesn't it? Weathered. Try a heavier line. A charcoal, not a pencil." Leo looked from the bridge to her, a slow, genuine smile spreading across his face. The blue around him warmed, tinged with a curious, hopeful yellow. "You're the paint shop girl. I prefer chromatic consultant," she said, smiling back. "Elara. Leo." That was the beginning. It was a beginning painted in watercolor washes of that hopeful blue, in the warm ochre of shared laughter in her shop, in the deep violet of late-night conversations in his small studio apartment that smelled of turpentine and ambition. Leo was an architect who dreamed of being an artist. Elara was an artist who saw the world in a way he could only dream of capturing. He taught her about structure and stability. She taught him that a shadow wasn't just gray. It was 1,000 colors layered together, and that a bruise wasn't just purple. It was the deep indigo of impact, the angry red of pain, and the yellow-green halo of healing. For a year, they were a masterpiece. He painted a portrait of her, not as she looked, but as he saw her through her descriptions. A woman composed of swirling, luminous colors, her hands stained with vermilion and cerulean, her eyes holding entire galaxies. He called it The Woman Who Spoke to Color. It was his first piece that sold for real money. "It's because of you," he whispered, holding her the night of the sale. "You make me see the world differently." The color around them was a perfect, radiant gold. The call came on a Tuesday. Leo's father, the formidable owner of a prestigious architecture firm, had suffered a major heart attack. He would survive, but he would not return to work. Suddenly, Leo wasn't just an aspiring artist. He was the only son, the heir to a legacy of concrete and steel. The weight of expectation, a dense, leaden gray, descended upon him, smothering the vibrant blues and golds. "I have to step in, Elara," he said, his voice hollow. "Just for a while. Just until things are stable." Elara saw the gray clinging to him, a shroud that dimmed his light. "I know," she said, taking his hand. "We'll be okay." But a while turned into months. Leo's days were filled with blueprints and board meetings. The smell of turpentine in his apartment was replaced by the scent of stale coffee and stress. His sketchbook gathered dust. The man who used to talk about the soul of a building was now talking about load-bearing walls and profit margins. He tried. He would come to her shop, tired and frayed, and try to tap into their old magic. But when Elara pointed out the way the evening light turned the city into liquid amber, he would just sigh and check his watch. "I have a conference call in 20 minutes. The colors around him became muted, muddied. The beautiful twilight blue was now the grim, flat gray of a rainy dawn. Elara felt like she was loving a ghost, a faded photograph of the man she had fallen for. Their arguments started small, but they were painted in the most violent of colors, sharp, livid reds and toxic, jealous greens. "It's just a job, Leo. It doesn't have to be your entire identity," Elara pleaded one night. "You don't understand the pressure," he shot back, the air around him flaring a defensive, angry crimson. "This isn't a hobby, Elara. This is my family. This is real life. And what is this? She asked, her voice breaking, gesturing between them. Is this not real? The silence that followed was the worst color she had ever experienced. It was the color of nothing, a void, a vacuum that sucked all the light and sound from the room. He stopped talking about his day. She stopped sharing the colors she saw. They existed in the same space, two separate paintings forced into the same frame, clashing horribly. Love, Elara realized with a sinking dread, could curdle. It could turn from a vibrant gold to a sickly, sour yellow, the color of old milk. The headache started as a dull throb, a persistent, muddy brown spot in her peripheral vision. She blamed it on stress, on the sadness that had become a constant companion. But when her vision started to blur, when the vibrant world she lived in began to desaturate, she went to the doctor. The diagnosis was as clinical as it was cruel. A rare, progressive neurological condition. It was attacking her optic nerve. There was no cure. She would lose her sight, completely and irreversibly, within a year. The world didn't go dark. It went gray. All the brilliant, beautiful colors that had been her language, her life, her soul, began to bleed away, fading like an old photograph left in the sun. She told Leo on a night when the last of the emerald green had drained from the trees outside their window. He was silent for a long time, the gray around him deepening into something absolute, the color of despair. "I'll be here," he finally said, his voice rough. "I'll take care of you." But his words were empty. She couldn't see the color of his lie, but for the first time, she could feel it. He wasn't saying it out of love. He was saying it out of duty. The weight of his family's business was already crushing him. The weight of her blindness would be the final, unbearable load. The last color Elara ever saw with perfect clarity was the color of a bruise. It was the evening she came home early from the shop she could no longer run. She pushed open the door to his studio, a place he never visited anymore, and found him there. He wasn't painting. He was staring at his old portrait of her, the woman who spoke to color. And he was crying. The air around him was a maelstrom of the most profound, gut-wrenching purple blue she had ever witnessed. It was the color of lost dreams, of a love that was dying, of a future being mourned before it was even gone. It was the exact, complex, painful color of a deep, healing bruise. He didn't see her. He just reached out and, with a cloth soaked in turpentine, he began to wipe the vibrant colors from the canvas. He was unpainting her, erasing the woman he had loved. Elara didn't say a word. She simply backed away and closed the door. That image, that final, devastating color, was burned into her dying sight forever. She left him a letter. She couldn't bear a spoken goodbye, where she wouldn't be able to see the color of his relief. "Leo, I saw you in your studio. I saw the color of what we have become. It's the color of a bruise. The dark, tender evidence of an impact, the painful memory of a vibrant life just beneath the surface, and the sad, final truth that it is, at its heart, an injury. You cannot love a memory, and I refuse to be your obligation. You were the most beautiful color I ever saw, and I will carry the memory of that blue with me into the dark. But you have to let me go, and I have to let you live the life you've chosen. Don't try to find me, just be happy. Love always, Elara." When Leo found the letter, he crumbled. The gray that had encased him shattered, and for a moment, he was flooded with the pure, agonizing crimson of loss. He ran, he called, he searched, but she was gone. She had moved to a small town by the sea, a place where the sounds and smells could replace the colors she had lost. Years passed. Elara learned to navigate her dark world. She learned the geography of a room by touch, the time of day by the warmth of the sun on her skin, the mood of a person by the tone of their voice. She wove baskets from seagrass, the rhythmic, tactile work a meditation. Her world was quiet, monochrome, but it was peaceful. Leo became a successful architect. He built stable, beautiful, soulless buildings. He never painted again. The portrait of Elara, half unpainted, remained in his studio, shrouded in a white cloth, a ghost he could never exorcise. He dated intelligent, beautiful women, but he never let any of them see the part of him that had died with Elara. He was successful, respected, and utterly, completely colorless. On the 10th anniversary of the day they met, Leo found himself driving. He didn't know where he was going until he saw the sign for the coastal town where a friend had once mentioned seeing her. He found her in a small craft shop, her fingers deftly weaving a basket. She was older, her face lined with a piece he didn't recognize. She looked content. A man, another local artist, was talking to her, describing the violent pink and orange of the sunset over the water. "It sounds loud," Elara said with a warm laugh, and the sound of it was a physical blow to Leo's heart. He stood in the doorway, frozen. He saw the way the artist looked at her, with kindness, with companionship. He saw that she had built a life, a whole world, without him. She tilted her head, as if sensing a presence. "Can I help you?" she asked, her blind eyes looking just past his shoulder. Leo opened his mouth, but no sound came out. 1,000 words, 1,000 apologies, 1,000 regrets, all died in his throat. What could he possibly say? That he was sorry? That he had been a coward? That he had spent every day since she left mourning a color he had been too afraid to keep in his life? He saw that his presence, his voice, would only be a disturbance, a painful echo from a past that no longer belonged to her. So he did the only loving thing he had left to do. He remained silent. He turned, and he walked away, leaving her in her peaceful monochrome world, where the memory of a beautiful melancholic blue was enough, and the sound of the ocean could almost help her remember what it looked like.